managing teams of 30, 50, 100 staff. It's tricky to keep that personal connection. To be honest, I do like small-ish organizations. I find that about 100, 150 staff is about the right number. You can get to know everybody on a personal level and try to, hit that critical mass of what you can achieve together.
Welcome to the STEM Career Coach, hosted by Donnie McClary. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, this is your guide to growing in STEM.
Hello, listeners. It is Data Science Donnie here, and I've got an exciting episode for you today. We have the great Salman, who will be sharing some of his insights and what he has experienced in his illustrious career and help him prepare the next set of professionals within the STEM industry. Salman, why don't you introduce yourselves to the audience?
Thanks, Donnie. So I'm Salman, originally from the UK. A bit of international experience, living and working in a few countries growing up. Started off in consulting. So I started consulting in the UK in 2005, telco. So a big deregulation project in the UK with BT, British Telecom, which is now Openreach. Semi-quasi-government kind of company. Then I went into financial services, consulting advisory with tier one investment banks for about 10 years. Moved out to Singapore in 2016. I moved out to Singapore in 2011. Been in about 15 years now. And 5 of those years was consulting. So 2016, moved to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam.
Awesome.
Working mainly in product management, product development, with a cool startup called Sentify. So we had a really successful exit from that company. Then I came back to Singapore, similar kind of fintech work for a few years. And then I joined healthcare. So I'm in health tech, and I've been doing that for about 3.5 years now.
Awesome. And your background is quite diverse. How did your career path unfold, and what originally drew you to this data science and analytics kind of space, which I know probably wasn't called that when you started things?
Yeah, so I've had a keen interest in tinkering with stuff from quite a young age. So I remember probably I was like 14 or 15. I had my school, books, these kind of exercise books where you write exercise notes. And I loved Porsche. So I think something you and Donnie, we share that in common.
Yes,
So I
sir.
think the new GT3 concept car had been announced or something like that. And we were back in 1990, late 90s.
Oh, fantastic.
So I managed to figure out a way to fit my book through the printer to get it to print an exercise book. So that was my first foray into kind of fiddling around with technology.
Absolutely.
I built my own website. I was a big fan of this band called Placebo. So I set up this website on one of those old websites. Before you had Facebook, it wasn't MySpace. It was The Globe or something like that. One of those
Wow.
websites back in the day. So yeah, I had a big interest in tech. And then when I went to university, I also had an interest in finance, actually. So the thing I liked about uni, my final year project was developing an algorithm to look for profitable investments in terms of like the stock market.
Oh,
So I
fantastic.
picked telco, and then just like playing around with data, trying to predict the future, trying to make money. I think one of the films that I really enjoyed that kind of influenced me was, oh gosh, I'm not sure if it's Isaac Asimov, Darren Aronofsky. That's it. And it was Pi, and that was an interesting film.
Oh, that's a very
And he
good
also
film.
wrote Requiem for a Dream, which is a really good one. So that kind of influenced my way forward. I considered a career in investment banking for a little bit, but I thought it was too square for my liking. Even though they did ask some pretty quite very interesting questions at that age, like you're 19, 20, you're looking for your job, and they're asking you how many tennis balls can you fit in a 747, or you're blind and you can't see, and you've got 3 people to carry across a bridge. All these kind of like out of the box brain
And
teaser
again,
type questions. I like problem solving at a young age, and so I think that was too fixed for me, that route. I decided to then go into consulting.
yeah,
So consulting I enjoyed. You can kind of experience the best of every company you work at, like European banks, American banks, Asian banks, different cultures, different. Everybody's making shed loads of money. That's was for sure. And then I kind of got tired of that. I wanted to kind of own something myself.
and
So I went into technology product development, where you're actually developing a product that people use rather than a service or a financial contract, which I felt at that stage of my career I kind of wanted to own and build.
Well, it seems like there's been a lot of different milestones. You kind of saw it everywhere from a very early age, from trying to fit the Porsche on a book to essentially trying to solve, healthcare problems in Singapore. Either way, it's just tackling those problems and essentially trying to create creative solutions using technology. You've never left the tech. Now, looking back, what some projects or milestones that you're most proud of, not just technically, but in terms of maybe impact or personal growth?
From a personal growth perspective, I think three actually major milestones. One is getting a degree. It wasn't so much the degree and is more of the journey and learning how to teach yourself, being away from home.
Correct.
That was for me a big achievement, and being able to accomplish something, first class honors degree from a top university.
Proud parents.
The next was probably, yeah, the next is probably my chartered financial analyst qualification. That was a toughie. I hadn't come from a finance background, so it was tricky. But I really felt my brain cells rewiring to kind of pass that exam. And I was so over the moon when I got the results and super, excited about that. And then the third one was, I think, in terms of personal, was I did this online course. I make sure that every year I do some sort of online book, some sort of professional learning. It was a design thinking, managing innovation and design thinking from HEC
Oh,
Paris.
wow.
And that's one of the very few certificates I've actually framed. So I framed my
Mm.
degree, I framed my CFA, chart holder, and I also framed this managing innovation and design thinking. And I felt that really opened my mind to what's out there and, giving me good ideas for developing my own business, my own product. I enjoyed that. So that's from a personal development perspective. From a professional side, I think it's probably moving up to Singapore, making that leap forward. And there's no safety net, right? So away from home, away from family,
Yes.
on your own in Asia. That was a big jump for. I managed to stick it out for 15 years now. Um, then there's, I think, successfully transitioning from finance to healthcare is also a big move. And those exits I mentioned from a couple of companies I work, early stage companies professionally. And then personally, obviously, family, getting married, having kids, very fulfilling part of my life.
Absolutely. And I love how, there's a bit that you said there that I just want to emphasize a little bit, and that you're always striving towards personal growth. Every year you do some kind of personal growth course or just expand the way that you do things. How do you kind of go about maybe picking those? I'm curious. There's Coursera we've all got, accounts with, but what kind of jumps out to you? And I'm sure maybe certain things would jump out to you at different stages, I would assume, but I'm curious of how you kind of go through that process of maybe finding a course that excites you.
I think a lot of leaders say that, surround yourself by people that are smarter than you. You're not going to be the smartest one in the room. So I kind of look at people who inspire me at that stage in my life I'm at, look at their trajectory, what they did. So when I moved up to Singapore, it was kind of to get up, in the executive ladder, you need to have international experience. That was an incentive for me. So I do look at people I admire and what works for them and try to emulate them, to be frank. Also having a mentor. So I think my mentors change over the years. Like every
As
couple of
it
years, I
should.
kind of reach my growth limit with that particular mentor I have. So I'm always on the lookout for not always, but I'm regularly on the lookout for a mentor to help me develop. Um, in terms of the area that I'm interested in at the moment is Singapore's Smart Nation initiative. So they have what's called a whole of government tech stack. Um, and that's something from a Coursera online courses, things I'm interested in doing is understanding like the tech fabric of the country and how all these systems and the huge engineering effort that's behind all the apps that we use from a public service perspective.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine how deep in the weeds you can get with that as well, especially as new technologies are emerging, new kind of processes and ways that see technology, especially from a health tech perspective. I think the rabbit hole is pretty big, and some holes you're probably finding yourself of even finance background or any of your startup background. What skills or stories or lessons learned can you bring from those positions even into a health tech? I would assume.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely done.
So from launching data platforms to mentoring, early career talent, your work blends with tech people, right? How did you balance the human and technical sides of leadership?
It was tough to be frank in the beginning. So when I started consulting, I was a bit robotic in the way I would ask my team for updates. And I was told by a manager just to kind of, again, the director, I still message. He was the first guy who hired me, second guy who hired me, who really believed in me. And I do look up to those early stage managers who I really respect, and you have that emotional connection with them.
Yes.
And he said, look, try to be a bit more easygoing and relaxed. Try not to be so, direct.
Methodical.
So I think that helps. I think when you scale up, it's difficult to keep that. So, managing teams of 30, 50, 100 staff, it's tricky to keep that personal connection. To be honest, I do like small-ish organizations. I find that about 100, 150 staff is about the right number. You can get to know everybody on a personal level, and try to, hit that critical mass of what you can achieve together. So it's keeping in touch with everybody. I'm a big fan of being in the office, to be honest with you. I find it's a bit awkward. I mean, some people are just awkward generally, let alone on the end of the phone. So I like being there in person. But I think that's something I'm adjusting to, Donnie, to be frank, is a lot of the work nowadays is online, working remotely. And I feel I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone to try and manage a team remotely. I know people like, I know Jamie Dimon from, Jamie Dimon is JP Morgan, that making people come back into the office. And the funny thing was, when COVID came about, they were like, oh, productivity is much better. Everyone's working from home. They waste less time traveling. They're more productive. They get to spend more time with their family. They're happier as a result. And all of a sudden, they've gone back on that. So I find that's interesting.
A lot of businesses are.
Personally, I prefer being in the office, but I think, I'm going to have to get used to people being comfortable working remotely. I think, well, with some individuals, provided, they're quite clear what the objective and the goals and the targets are, and they're capable, they've demonstrated that they're productive, it makes sense. But I think for maybe the learners, who kind of, when you see someone doing something on their screen, like, you kind of start a conversation, you're like, oh, did you try doing it this way? And then boom, that's, what we call growth hacks. They then become, 10x more productive in that particular thing they were doing. I think that collaborative learning environment works well. And if you look at the education system nowadays, I've been hearing stories of a lot of kids in schools learning off a tablet, or losing that connection, that human touch. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it does make me uncomfortable.
For me, I think people underestimate the power of an ad hoc conversation. It's similar to what you mentioned. You see someone is doing something, you see them kind of looking at the screen, puzzling look, and you could very powerfully walk in, kind of assess the situation, give them a few bits and pieces that would maybe help put make everything click. And then from there, you could walk away. And as you mentioned, they could be 10 times more productive for the rest of the day. Even in recruitment, if someone is on a call, because you're just listening because they're right next to you and you hear something they might have missed, or something that you might ask next time, or just that ad hoc kind of advice is very powerful. And there's nothing that makes you more comfortable with someone than the ability to walk up to them and speak to them, opposed to like you have to hit a button, you have to wait for them. It's a longer process than just saying, hey, mate, got a second, and just walking over, opposed to trying to, I guess, organize and orchestrate an actual conversation.
You can do that, Donnie, but the thing I find that creativity and that spark, like, I don't know where it comes from. So I was just thinking about this. I've hired programmers that actually come from an economics background. I mean, I don't know what it is. Physics, aeronautical engineering, comp sci, even journalism. And I think it's that creative spark, that ability to kind of make connections, join stuff together. Because sure, you can go over to a colleague and say, let's do this, but it hasn't really embedded in their mind, because they're thinking very linearly. They're just thinking, my job is 1 to 3. And sure, we talked about this 4, 5, and 6 with my boss, but I have no initiative to go and do it. Is it a function of some staff don't have a clear career trajectory, or they just naturally like doing 1, 2, and 3 day in, day out? So, even though you can have those kind of conversations, I still think there's a certain personality that responds well to those ideas. And also some people are slower. So they might not get 4, 5, and 6 straight away, but maybe 6 months down the line, they'll be like, oh, now I get why we were talking about that 6 months before.
Now that last bit, welcome to recruitment. all of a sudden it just clicks and then the light bulb's going, oh, this is where this works and this is where this company fits in. Then when the light bulb comes in, that's when they really fly. So as I'm growing my teams now, I have seen some of those moments and I look forward to more of them, to be honest.
What is that secret sauce that you see, and as a hiring manager and people you work with, that makes them curious? Because if you look at was Da Vinci's seven signs of genius, right? Curiosity, passion, things like that. What do you think the secret sauce is?
For me, in the I guess the staff and the candidates that I think are suitable for my line of work, it is goals. It is having
Mm.
seen some adversity. Either they are the oldest in their family and they're taking care of their family. Either they're recently married or having kids. There's this mitigating circumstance that really drives them to step outside of their comfort zone, just innately. Just because they've got a goal that they're chasing towards. And one of the things I do with my staff is actually ask them their personal goals and not just their professional ones, because to me, what carries more weight is actually a personal goal. Because you can say in recruitment, it's all about making commissions, making money, just like in sales. But what do you want to do with that? Why is money such a important factor? And understanding that additional layer and that motivator is a very powerful thing as a leader. One, influence them, but also two, be on the same page and add that personal touch. So essentially, I care about my staff. I'm very prideful of that. And how can you say you care about somebody if you don't, they want to do it themselves? If you don't understand, that's why I like that you said that 100 is what you found, that you can really still be personal, still know people. Anything more than that is kind of a little bit too, outside of the comfort zone. You can't really get to know everyone. And I've got about 30 now. So I think I'm in a good sweet spot where I can really know everybody, really influence. But for me, it is about pushing themselves. It is about having a bit of passion and pride about when they speak about themselves or things they've accomplished. And it's interesting when you say to someone, what are you most proud of? And the things that come out of their mouth as well. Some people go straight to school or to work, but some people go straight to life. And I think breaking down that wall is really what lets people see them true selves. And I think if someone says, I just want money, I don't really have anything I want out of life, I'm just kind of floating, that's maybe not the right person for me.
Thanks,
Oh,
Don.
yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you're seeing some similarities and some differences by hearing recruiters versus, technologists. But as you are building cross-functional teams, you build teams in finance, build teams in healthcare. What makes a STEM team a truly high-performing team beyond technical skill? I'm curious if there's some things that you've seen as you built some of the teams that have been working for you.
Yeah. So I think Google did a study a few years ago, actually more than a few years ago, around what makes a high performing team. A few different personal. I'm a big fan of diversity, gender, race, age, diversity in the team. So I make sure that I have a diverse team. And you kind of just want to throw like a few oddballs into the mix to see what happens. And you just, they kind of just pull each other along, the teams. So I enjoy building teams, to be honest with you. That's some of the stuff I've been doing early in my career. As a consultant, you come in to a client, you go to your bench, you pick out your team,
Mhm.
or as a football coach would. Even with startups and corporates, I've built teams, high performing teams. Um, you kind of want strong academic qualification. I hate to say it, but yeah,
Technology.
someone that can demonstrate focus on something and deliver something well, ideally. And sure, it doesn't have to be pure academics. There could be people who maybe have some other cause, as you mentioned, goal setting that they're interested in. So like starting a business, or doing some coding, or taking care of like a loved one. So being able to demonstrate they're able to achieve something, whatever
Right.
scale, right? Even if it's volunteering at a charity, um, that appeals to me. Having strong foundational education is important. Being polite. Maybe it's my British side coming
Uh-huh.
out. Just in the morning saying hi to your team, goodbye in the evenings. Kind of that, ping and touch. I'm a big fan of that softer side of things as well. Being open, collaborative, being able to think like conceptually,
Right.
abstractly, and not worry about. Because I think some people, when you start talking about concepts, they automatically start worrying that I'm going to have to do something. So just trying to separate the what from the how, so people that can think at those different levels. Those are some things that are important to me.
Absolutely. I would also say some of the things that I've seen hiring managers focus on. is, like you said, finding people from all different walks of life. Uh, Also, one thing that I heard a long time ago, it's always resonated with me, is some of the best developers come from a music background, because reading music and coding, there's some really, there's some articles that I've read that they're quite simultaneous as the approaches, and I would say some of the best practices from a syntax perspective as well, which I found very interesting. Essentially, a coder could be anyone. You mentioned economics. We've got bioscience now. Even psychology is just looking at data and having some kind of SQL aspect, or even some Python or some technical, I guess, proficiency that is needed for almost all degrees now. Where you do see people pivoting to almost a very technical position from maybe a non-technical field, or a very different, essentially, career trajectory compared to what they were anticipating that they would be on. And I love that you have people from all those different types of backgrounds, because one thing that sticks out to me is each one of them, when they're doing their academia, is tackling data from a different perspective. Information is everywhere, no matter what you see or what you do. So the fact that those people are tackling from different perspectives, but through their discipline, I think it probably also ad hoc adds to that, that culture that you're building as well.
Music's important. I'd also say if you look at Mark Zuckerberg,
Mhm.
linguistics, like languages, math, I found very strong engineers when I worked in Vietnam, a good, strong math background. I think mathematicians, they say if you can solve a problem theoretically, then the coding is just the easy part. And I find with the introduction of Gen AI, if you can then solve the problem, you can just tell the computer to write the code for you.
Oh, and that's where we're heading towards. That is we're there now, mate. And well, I would say we're there, but we're definitely ticking toward that world. But that's why that was a prompt engineering is be such a big thing, because it's understanding the complexities and kind of the nuances to ask the right questions, but not necessarily the person that's actually doing it. So I think that is coming for sure. Now, you've led teams across Europe and Asia. How would you say should professionals adapt their working style when navigating global or multicultural environments?
I think it's getting to know your colleagues, as you mentioned, like goal setting. What are you interested in? What you um, what floats your boat? Regular check-ins. So, when I have new people on the team, I make sure that every day for 30 minutes, for the first couple of months, it's just I give them half an hour of my time. And some of them, they start off by doing a status update. I did this yesterday, I'm doing this today. And I'm like, no, don't think you're under pressure to deliver every day, but it's more, I'm giving you time to just tell me what you think.
Mm.
It can be anything. Be like, oh, the queue for the loo is too long, or somebody stole my space in the fridge, or whatever, right? So I'm keen on just understanding the person as an individual, as you mentioned, what motivates them, what inspires them for the first couple of months, getting to know the individual. And then after that, my philosophy is you do quarterly performance reviews. So you have your kind of regular
Mhm.
check-ins, but every 3 months you kind of set goals. And I've been doing this for many years now. And it's just my consulting practice, best in breed. But I find that not all organizations have the same way they adopt it, or even adopt it at all. Some organizations, kind of at the end of the year, they've decided, informally where they're going to rank everybody, and it's kind of like a after the fact
Mhm.
objective setting. I don't feel is fair on anybody. So I'm a big fan of every quarter we set individual objectives. I want to go on X and X training. I want to work more flexibly. I want to, switch roles. That's the individual. Then you have kind of the team objectives. So like, how do they want to contribute to the team? Then you have the department level objectives. How can they contribute to the department? And then the company level objectives, like how can they contribute to company level goals? So these four levels, and obviously different weightings are high depending on what's important and what aligns. But I'm a big fan of that regular formal, write it down on a piece of paper,
Mhm.
and then in 3 months' time we sit down together. And we're like, okay, well, this wasn't appropriate, but you ended up doing another one instead. Let's add that in,
Absolutely.
and that kind of it's a very good relationship between a manager or even not a manager, I would say a leader,
Mhm.
to enable and empower and facilitate that goal setting. So I find that when someone I think is high potential and I've kind of reached their limits with the organization that they're with, working with me, I do my best just to kind of, help them lead to the next star.
Absolutely. And it's something that really stuck out to me is that you went almost very small to very big as far as their impact. You talk about just themselves and their particular job. Then you talk about inside of the team that they're working with, then the department that they're in, and then most importantly, the business. Because I think for a lot of people, well, for most of us, it's very easy to get stuck in what you do day in and day out. You don't really think about the big picture, what this project that you're working on and what the significance is for the, not just the department, not just the team, but also for the business as a whole. And I would say pulling off that Band-Aid or unblindfolding the person that's working for you can really help with motivation. Just getting, and also seeing the big picture as well. That's actually something that I cannot say that I add the business aspect. I would say the other three steps I do quite decently, but it's always good to add another feather in the hat. That last bit that I think would also tie everything together quite nicely. I really, really like that, because what better feeling is it than to know you're helping drive your business, not just the people around you, and your team, but the organization as a whole.
There's an exercise, it's called a big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG. Sometimes I work with teams, they're like, we're just not feeling that we're contributing at a company level. What can we do different? So we sit down, everybody kind of scribbles down on a post-it note what they think the objective is, what they think the goal is. And then as a team, we come together, on a common understanding.
I love that. No, and I'm glad Airswift is adopting some of these best practices from the top down, which is always great to see. Now, you built and led technical teams and more have also mentored interns, early career professionals. What are the most underrated moves STEM professionals can make to accelerate their growth?
Mentorship, I think, having a good mentor, touching base with them regularly, that's completely understated. I had some good mentors, and they really kind of enabled me and facilitated me and said, look, nothing's wrong with going and mentioning this to someone, I thought was way out of my league. But having a good mentor or a few mentors that give you the confidence to be better every day is completely understated. Um, I think showing up is also important. So, kind of being, in the office at the same time your boss is. I'm a big fan of that, because you never know, right? That they just kind of turn over and be like, "Oh, you're there. Can you do this?" Right? 90% is just showing up.
Right place, right time, right uniform,
That's
as it's in the
important.
Army.
I think those are a couple understated things you could do. Um, yeah, and then there's the usual stuff like kind of communicating, presenting, being able to, concisely describe an idea, document it, and demonstrating, a good track record. Because you find some people are very good at talking the talk, but when you look at what they delivered over the last, few years, it's a lot of talk really, rather than, and it's actually other people that did it. So I think, but that's, I guess, as you move up the chain.
One of the things that always resonate with me when I hear mentors is there's nothing more powerful than someone telling you what they see in you, especially someone that you want to be like. Because a lot of people, or I speak for myself as well, when we think about our own capabilities, typically they're quite capped. But it does take someone to kind of sit down with you, say, I know you're very good at this, but I think you can make a great leader, or you'd be really good at this particular skill with our business development, account management, and recruitment wise. Just seeing that potential and then setting themselves up. What do you think about that? Have you ever thought about maybe transitioning to this or leadership or whatever that idea or what you see in that person is? And then from there, expanding their mindset as far as what their capabilities are. Maybe, you know what, I maybe could do that. But it also excites you that someone sees something in you that maybe you didn't see. And it's very hard for us to judge ourselves. It's much easier to get some outside opinions. So for future mentors, I really encourage you to be quite forthright with your thoughts and how you see your mentees and maybe some of their potential, even if it's potential room for growth or is potential for different scopes of work or skill sets that they maybe have a little bit of that they could really refine that could help them. I just that was something that popped in my mind that I just like to always share when I hear about mentors, because mentors are very powerful, and especially in technology. And there's a new generation of tech leader that is being built that is almost like me, a salesperson. They can sell the business and do the technology. I would say similar to yourself. You can still write code. You still know everything about the projects that are going on, but also can sell and translate. The translatable leaders. And for me, in STEM, that can accelerate your career in STEM. If you can translate well, if you can sell the idea, get the key stakeholder buy-in, and understand the technology aspect that is the most crucial part that actually makes it work, you will be a killer. you will just have the world is your oyster, as they will say. And that is just from speaking to thousands of candidates and hiring managers, where those individuals are the ones that you see in those leadership positions. And I feel you're a great example of that. You communicate so well and still are in the weeds. That balancing act is not easy, but if you can do it, it'll accelerate your career, in my opinion. And so, what advice would you give STEM professionals who want to future-proof their careers in an age of automation and Gen AI?
Yeah, so we talked about personal and professional development. So you get things like EBTI, and one I did recently was the Clifton Skills Assessment, just to get to know your strengths and your potential blind spots. Those are some good things to do. I think I did there was a Covey, Franklin Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the training course that I did. And they give us what's called action cards. So kind of when you're stuck on a problem and you're not sure how to proceed, these action cards kind of help you decide what to do next. So, kind of dedicate, probably a month, every month, maybe a day of your time, just to get out there. Like go to a conference, go to like a network thing, meet people, maybe go on like a training course with people you've never seen before, just to kind of give you some inspiration. And then when you've done that, write down. So, I think everybody should have some notes on their phone of things to do for work, like, talk to someone, make the connection. When you're having a swim or working at the gym, some idea pops into your head, write it down and follow up on it. So that's important. And I think also equally is probably having that focus. So, when you think about what you want to achieve at the end of the year, obviously work with your manager and then set those 2 or 3 very high level goals and then stick with it and focus on it. So, 70 plus percent of your effort is on those top 3 goals, with another 25% is kind of exploring
Mm,
and looking for what's next.
absolutely. And to me, to stay ahead of the curve with automation and Gen AI and how technology is hitting us in full swing, the only way to future-proof your career, in my opinion, is to get on the boat. Is to see how these new technologies can make you better, faster, stronger, how you can use it to ease your job and make yourself much more indispensable to your company. It is here. Technology is coming. It is ever changing. It is fast as the speed of light. But embracing that change and looking at new technologies, I would love a staff and a technology team that would come to me that learned about a new technology and maybe how we could use that to make our jobs much easier. Start thinking like the person you want to be instead of just maybe at the level that you are. I think could be quite helpful and ensuring you have a long, illustrious STEM career.
Certifications are important. I mean, not just as a box ticking exercise, but I do find the CVs I've been seeing recently a bit light on formal
Mm.
certifications. That does help. At least get your foot in the door, and then you can demonstrate capability. I find when I'm looking at a CV that just says, SQL, Python, Chat GPT, LLMs, it's difficult. But unless someone's got like a recognizable cert from AWS or from OpenAI or from Coursera, uh, it's easier to what you call I have a better appetite for a CV that has both the formal
Mhm.
qualification as well as the experiential learning.
It's very easy now that we have AI for you to do a CV. I want a job as a software engineer with X tech stack, and I have 6 years of experience. And I'll create almost the exact CV that you want, but you still it's hard to differentiate all these buzzwords and keywords everybody's filmed their CVs with because it's how some internal TA teams find, CVs that are sent out for particular jobs. So I think balancing the professional aspect as well as the GitHub depositories and all the side projects, I think those to me, I always include in all of the CVs because they're so valuable. And having those side projects, having those side kind of things that you're working on, the upskilling and just seeing that credibility instantly really helps get them that first conversation. It needs to start somewhere.
It does help. And I would also say probably don't follow the herd. So, for example, I've seen some CVs recently from certain, people on a certain course, and they're all kind of, hitting, and I find that the CVs are all very well written because they're probably all sharing the same tools to write the CVs. They all have a Git account. They all have a very similar LinkedIn profile. But what's missing is their capability. They all talk. They all sound like they know what they're doing, but when I assessed them technically, they didn't have it. So they kind of spoil the game for everybody because
Mhm.
they're all applying substantive from a certain education institution. And in my mind, I'm not going to rate that as high as I would, uh, you know, from kids from other education institutions where I'd seen high quality candidates based on CV. It's very disappointing when you've got like 3 or 4 or 7 out of 8 out of 10 CVs. Um, you think like they're great CVs, and you meet them, and all 3 or 4 of them let you down. You just kind of start to blacklist that education institution, especially for early stage hires. Um, and I think even from certain companies, and I think healthcare, it's tough. It is tough to hire in healthcare compared to finance. Finance, I feel, is much more liquid. In healthcare, not been as I've not found it as easy to hire as it was in finance, and even with the startups, that was tough. Trying to convince someone to come to Vietnam and live there for a few years to build a startup. We did give equity, but it's tough to get people like that. Um, when I was with a cryptocurrency trading firm, they'd rather go work for some reputable firm than go work for you. So that was tough to attract good talent. But the talent we did find were obsessed.
Oh,
And we used to say that work was what would happen between talking about crypto, trading crypto, researching crypto,
yes.
and going for lunch. And then in between, you get a bit of work done. But these are like high performing teams that able to deliver very quickly and get the job done.
Absolutely. And some amazing insights of how some traits and some things that you've seen across your career of highly successful STEM professionals. There were some good themes, mentors, have people around you that you want to be like, constantly learning and upskilling yourself, asking questions, pushing the status quo. And it's as simple as showing up, being polite, being eager, asking questions. Those are things that you can really solidify yourself as a good member of the team. And most importantly, someone that can be looked on for maybe bigger and better things.
Yeah, summarized very well done.
Oh, thank you, mate. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing some of your subject matter expertise. It is always great when I get to have a chat with you. I learn something every time. Cannot thank you enough for your time, mate.
My pleasure. Thanks, Don.
Thank you for listening to the STEM Career Coach with Donnie McClary. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more inspiring stories and actionable tips. Catch you next time.